I've been a ranger at Shawnee Forest for over 15 years. I've seen storms tear trees straight from the ground, drunks wander in circles till dawn. Even hunters swear they saw faces moving between the pines. But nothing ever stayed with me like what happened last October. It was a little past midnight when the forest went still. No wind, no insects. Even the radio static sounded softer, like the air itself was holding its breath. I remember thinking it felt like the whole place was listening. Then my radio crackled to life. A woman's voice came through, faint, trembling. "Help, please, someone help me." Her tone was raw, like she was forcing the words through tears. At first, I thought it was interference, maybe a stray signal from search and rescue. But then the message repeated, same pitch, same stutter, same break in every syllable. Exactly the same. "Ranger Harlow to dispatch," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you confirm any emergency transmissions on Channel 3? Nothing, just silence. Then the voice came again, this time right over mine, soft, close, like someone whispering in the dark beside my ear. "Help me." My throat went dry, because I'd heard that sound before. 10 years ago, almost to the day, during a missing person case that never got solved. Same cry for help, same hollow tone, like whoever it was had been calling for hours. I told myself it couldn't be real, just some broken loop from an old frequency. Still, I grabbed my spotlight, checked my sidearm, and keyed my radio. "Torres, you awake?" I asked. "Copy," he said, calm, almost bored. "You get a call?" "Yeah, South Ridge." Sounds like a woman in trouble. He hesitated. His tone sharpened. "At midnight?" "Let's check it out." We split routes. He'd take the lower trail, I'd circle the ridge. The trees were slick with mist, the bark sweating under the moonlight. Every few minutes I stopped to listen. Nothing. Then, faintly again. "Help me," I pressed the mic. "Ma'am, stay where you are," I said firmly, trying not to let my voice shake. "We're coming." No response, only the forest breathing. Then, through the hiss, my own voice came back, same words, same tone, just 3 seconds later. "Ma'am, stay where you are. We're coming." I froze. The forest fell silent again, except for that tiny echo still pulsing through the speaker, like it was practicing my voice. That was the night I realized something in Shawnee wasn't just listening. It was learning. The fog was still sitting heavy when I clocked in. Coffee had gone cold, boots damp from the night before. It didn't feel like morning, more like the forest had just paused between breaths. I logged last night's incident as unverified female distress call, or .41 a.m., and stopped before adding the part where it mimicked me. Nobody at headquarters liked the word repeat. It made things sound human. Torres came in an hour later, eyes red, hands trembling around his thermos. "Didn't sleep?" I asked. He forced a grin. "Heard it again," he said quietly. Same line, same voice. "Out near the South Ridge." I lowered my pen. "Through the radio?" He shook his head. "No, sir. Out there." He pointed toward the tree line, like it was moving. That ridge, Cedar Trail, had been sealed off after the wildfire in 2013. Locals called it Echo Hollow. They like to say the trees there remembered sound. I used to think it was just a story. We geared up after lunch. Standard patrol pack, radios, rifles, flares, emergency blankets, thermal scanner. HQ wanted logs on the wildlife population, but we both knew this wasn't about wildlife anymore. The drive out took 40 minutes. By the time we reached the forest gate, visibility had dropped to 50 yards. The mist clung to the ground like spilled milk, heavy and wet. Even the insects were silent. "Stay on Channel 3, I said. Torres smirked. Channel of Ghosts, got it. We started the hike, boots crunching over frost, breath hanging in front of us like smoke. Every few minutes the forest exhaled, long, deep gusts that almost sounded like whispers. Half a mile in, Torres stopped and crouched. Tracks, he said, small, barefoot, human. They cut across the mud deep enough to still hold warmth. I pressed my hand to one. It felt faintly warm, impossible in this weather. Then the radio cracked. Ranger Harlow, my name, plain, flat, no static. Torres looked at me. You call me? I shook my head. It hissed again, a whisper, fragile and close. Help me. Torres keyed his mic, his tone tight. Identify yourself. This is Officer Torres, Shawnee Ranger Division. No response, just breathing. Slow, shaky, wet, like someone pressing their mouth against the receiver. I motioned forward. The sound was pulling us deeper. Branches hung low. The fog swallowed light. My boot slipped once on the wet moss. The air was thick, metallic, and cold enough to sting when I breathed. Then, movement. Something pale ahead. A figure, half seen through the fog, moving between the trees. We froze. Torres whispered, his voice trembling. Jack, is that? By the time I lifted my flashlight, it was gone. We found a clearing, an old fire pit, long cold, a ranger jacket hanging from a branch, Forest Service insignia, same as ours, blood on the cuff, not much, but enough. Tag's gone, I said. Could be one of the missing from the 2013 crew. Torres knelt to check the dirt. There are drag marks, he said, voice firm. Heading east. We followed them 30, maybe 40 yards before they just stopped. No prints, no blood, no struggle. Like whatever left them had simply faded out. The forest was so still I could hear my heartbeat. And then, the voice again. Closer this time. Help me, Torres spun, light sweeping. It's right behind us. I turned. Fog, trees, nothing else. But the air felt wrong, charged, waiting. Come on, I said quietly. We'll log this and bring it up to HQ. He nodded, though his face had gone pale. We retraced our path. Halfway back, the GPS blinked out, pure white screen. The compass needle spun until it pointed straight up. Torres muttered, uneasy. Something screwing the field. Magnetic storm, maybe? Maybe, I said, though I didn't believe it. By the time we reached the truck, the forest had changed. Wind had started again, faint but hollow, like air moving through a pipe. Torres turned up the radio volume. Static stronger now, he said. Then, through the static, my voice, clear, calm. Dispatch, Ranger Harlow, do you read? Except I hadn't said anything. That was my recording from 20 minutes earlier. We both stared at the radio. Torres whispered, That's you. Yeah, I said, and it's live. I reached out, turned the dial to 0. The speaker clicked off, but for half a second afterward, the voice still echoed, like it didn't need the hardware anymore. We drove back in silence. Torres stared out the window, still gripping his radio tight. Every now and then, the red indicator light blinked on. No signal, no cause. Back at the ranger station, the others had already signed off for the day. Fluorescent lights buzzed, coffee machine hummed. Everything looked normal. I almost convinced myself we'd imagined it. Torres stood at the window watching the tree line. He said softly, You think maybe it learned how to use the radio? I stared at him for a long moment. Then I wrote a note in the margin of the report. Pattern forming. Origin unknown. He stayed there another minute, rubbing his arm. Then he said something that stuck with me ever since. It said your name before I keyed the mic. I told him to get some rest. He nodded and walked out, boots squeaking against the tile. When the door shut, I could still hear faint static behind me, coming not from the radio, but from the logbook. The pen was buzzing against the paper, shaking slightly in place. and when I picked it up, the ink on the page rippled, like the vibration from the radio was moving through it. That was the last entry I wrote by hand. After that, everything started writing itself. By noon, the wind had stopped moving. The forest was too quiet again. No birds, no crunch of snow, not even the creak of branches. It felt like the world had forgotten how to make noise. Torres walked ahead of me, radio in hand, scanning the tree line. Every now and then, he'd stop and tilt his head, listening for something behind the wind. "Same direction?" I asked. He nodded. "Northeast. It keeps fading in and out." We followed the voice. Each time it came through the static, it sounded weaker, but clearer, like someone whispering through water. Sometimes it was a word, sometimes it was just breath. The fog broke open at the edge of a clearing. Trees there had snapped halfway up the trunk as if pressed outward from the center. Pine needles carpeted the ground, slick with frost. The air stank of iron and something sweet, like rot left too long in the cold. Torres lifted his flashlight. The beam caught something red among the branches. He took a step forward, but I grabbed his shoulder. "Don't," I said, low. He'd already seen it. Hanging from one of the broken limbs was a woman's body, frozen stiff. Her skin had gone gray, her hair fanned by the wind like black moss. There was a hollow where her chest should have been. Torres staggered back, bent over, and vomited, the sound slicing through the stillness. I pulled him away, forcing him to look at the ground. "Don't," I said again, quieter this time. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "Jesus, Jack, what the hell happened to her?" "I don't know," I said, breath catching, "but she didn't do that to herself." We circled the tree slowly. No drag marks, no sign of a struggle. The snow beneath her was untouched, smooth as if she'd been placed there. Torres reached for the radio. "Dispatch, this is—" He stopped. The speaker was already alive. "Help me." Same tone, same pitch, same cry we'd followed for hours, but the woman's mouth didn't move. Her body swayed slightly in the wind. The voice came again, louder this time, bleeding through both our radios. "Help me." Exactly the same length, exactly the same rhythm, like a recording, looped to perfection. Torres's hands shook. "It's her. It's gotta be." "Look closer," I said quietly. The sound wasn't coming from her. It was coming from behind us. I turned, flashlight slicing through the fog. Something moved between the trees, a shape, pale and low, crawling. Branches cracked under its weight. Torres whispered, voice shaking. Could she still be alive? I raised the rifle. "No," I said, "but something's using her voice." Then the woods erupted. Every radio on both our belts, even the spare, burst with static, screaming through the frequency. It wasn't feedback, it was rhythm. 12 seconds on, 12 seconds off. A pulse. We backed up, slow and careful. The thing in the fog shifted, matching our steps. Every move we made came back half a beat later, like the forest was echoing us in real time. Torres swung his light toward it, hands trembling. For an instant, I caught the reflection of eyes, too far apart, too bright. Then, nothing. "Fall back!" I yelled. We broke through the clearing, stumbling over roots and stones. The forest behind us roared with static, not animal, not wind, just raw interference scraping through the trees. When we reached the ridge, the radios went dead. Silence again, heavy as snow. Torres doubled over, gasping. What the hell was that? I didn't answer. I just kept my eyes on the tree line. Then the voice came again, not from the woods, but from my left, inches from my ear. "Help me." I turned. Nothing. But Torres froze, staring past me into the fog. His face had gone pale. "Jack," he murmured, "there's another one." I followed his gaze. Another body. A man this time, slumped against a stump, moving, just barely, like breathing through ice, the same hollow in the chest. Every time the wind blew, the ribs shifted, and from inside that cavity came the voice again. "Help me." Torres backed away, whispering, "It's inside him. The sound's inside." "Stay calm," I said. "Keep your weapon ready." But my hands were shaking too. The smell hit us then, thick rot, metallic and sweet, coating the air. It was everywhere, in the ground, the trees, our clothes. Torres gagged. "We need to leave," I nodded. "Back to the tower, now." We started up the ridge. The static followed, low and steady, like breath filtered through wires. Every 12 seconds the forest answered back, each echo sharper than the last. Halfway up, Torres stopped. "Jack," he said softly, "what if it's not copying us? Or what if we're copying it?" I didn't look at him, because the radio on my belt was on again, and my own voice, my exact voice, was whispering through it. "Don't look back." I froze. Torres's radio crackled, then repeated the same line, same tone, same breath. He stared at me. "You told it to say that?" I shook my head. "No." For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then, somewhere down the slope, the mimic voice changed. It started calling our names. Jack, then Torres. Every 12 seconds, perfect rhythm. We ran. Branches clawed at our coats, snow slapped our faces. The forest seemed to tilt beneath our boots, pushing us downhill faster than we could think. The voice followed, now behind, now ahead, shifting positions like it couldn't decide which one of us to wear. When the tower lights finally came into view through the fog, I almost didn't believe they were real. We burst through the gate, slammed it shut, and collapsed beside the truck. Torres was shaking so hard he dropped his rifle. I grabbed the mic from the dash, calling dispatch. No response, just the faint echo of my own words returning 3 seconds late. "We need backup," and then, "We need backup." The forest beyond the headlights rippled faintly, as if the trees themselves were breathing. I shut the radio off, turned to Torres, and said the only thing that felt true. "It's not her," I said quietly. "It's something else." He swallowed hard. "Then what's it doing?" I looked back into the woods. Learning. The wind picked up again after midnight. It came in slow, hollow breaths, like the forest was testing its lungs. Torres and I stayed by the truck, headlights pointed at the tree line. Neither of us said much. Then the treetops shifted. Branches bent as something tall brushed against them. At first I thought it was smoke, a column rising and folding in on itself. But then it moved sideways. Between 2 pines, a shape began to take form. It stepped into the beam of our lights, pale, impossibly thin, joints bent wrong like someone had tried to rebuild a body from memory. Its skin had that waxy tone you see on things that should be frozen but aren't. No clothes, no eyes, just smooth skin stretched too tight, trembling under the light. Torres lifted his rifle. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. The creature turned its head toward him, slow, almost curious. And then it spoke. "Help me." It was the woman's voice, the same tone, the same shiver, the same break in the breath. But the mouth never moved. It just opened and hung there. Torres froze. Then the pitch dropped. "Don't move," it said, my voice this time, exactly my tone, my pacing. It echoed half a second late like my own words coming back through fog. "Don't move." I stepped forward. "Stay behind the truck." Torres's finger twitched on the trigger. "Sir, what the hell is that?" "I don't know." The creature cocked its head again, a sudden insect-like motion that cracked the air. Then it twitched once, twice, and blurred. Torres fired. The muzzle flash lit the fog white, but the thing was gone before the echo even faded. Somewhere in the dark, it shrieked, not loud but sharp, like metal tearing through water. I grabbed the radio. HQ, this is Harlow. We need immediate static. Then, through the noise, the same voice replied, HQ, this is Harlow. I dropped it. Torres fired again, blind into the fog. Something moved fast between the trees, too fast to follow, just a smear of white and shadow. Run! I shouted. We tore into the woods, branches whipping our faces, flashlights jerking across bark and snow. Every 6 seconds, the radio burst alive. Help me! Then silence. Then again. Perfect rhythm. Torres tripped on a root. I hauled him up. The thing was close now. I could hear its limbs scraping, dragging, rearranging as it moved. The light caught its shoulder once, slick, black, glistening like oil under moonlight. We hit a ravine and slid down through the mud. The radio screamed again. Jack! My name. Torres spun. Flashlight swinging wild. It's calling you. I know. The beam caught a flash of teeth. Wrong. Too many, buried under skin. Torres fired. The recoil threw him back into me. The bullet hit something. A hiss cut through the fog. Wet, furious. Then silence again. We crouched behind a fallen log, hearts hammering. Only our breath clouded the air. Reload, I whispered. Torres nodded, his hands trembling as he fumbled for the clip. The forest went still. Even the snow seemed to stop falling. I peeked over the log. The fog had thickened to a wall. The beam from my flashlight bounced back, white, blinding. Somewhere inside it, a shadow moved. Jack. It was my name again, but not the voice from before. This one was lower, familiar. Tom, I whispered. 10 years vanished in a heartbeat. Tom Grant, my old partner. The one who'd gone missing near Cedar Trail. I hadn't heard that voice since the day we found his badge frozen in a riverbank. Now it was calling to me again. You left me. Jack. Torres looked at me, confused. Who's Tom? Doesn't matter. The voice came closer, crawling through the fog. Each word trembled with static. You left me. My pulse spiked. I aimed toward the sound, waiting for a shape, any shape, and then it stepped through. The creature again, but the way it tilted its head, exactly how Tom used to when he was trying to read a map, even the limp, the same leg Tom had broken that winter. Don't do this, I muttered. The thing smiled, not with its face, but with sound. It played laughter, mine, through the air around us, thin, hollow, artificial. Torres fired another round. The blast tore through the fog and hit it square in the chest. For a moment, it stood there perfectly still. Then, the body folded inward, bones collapsing like paper. It hit the ground without a sound. We approached slowly. It twitched, faintly, like something still deciding whether to die. Black liquid leaked from the wound, thick and tar-like, pooling in the frost. The smell was unbearable, burned copper and wet ash. I raised the barrel, took aim, and fired once more into its head. The skull split, and the body unraveled into a slick black mass that steamed against the snow. Then, nothing. No wind, no echo, just the sound of our breathing. Torres's chest rose and fell like he'd run a marathon. He finally lowered the rifle. It's dead, he said, voice barely holding steady. I didn't answer. Because the pool on the ground, that black liquid, was still moving. Slowly. Pulling itself toward the base of a tree, like it was searching for another shape to wear. Torres saw it too. What the hell? Don't touch it. We watched as the thing's residue sank into the bark, leaving behind a faint burn mark, a ring, perfectly round, almost like an ear. Then the wind started again, gentle this time, carrying away the stench. Snow began to fall. And for the first time in hours, the forest sounded normal. I looked at Torres. His face was pale, eyes glassy. He nodded once like he was trying to convince himself it was over. But I could still hear it, faintly, somewhere in the distance, every 6 seconds, that breath, that loop. Help me. And this time it didn't sound like her. It sounded like me. By the time we caught our breath, the snow had almost buried what was left of the clearing. Except there wasn't anything left. The body was gone. The black sludge, the scorch on the bark, even the bullet shells we'd just fired, all vanished. Torres stood next to me, panting, eyes darting between the trees. "Jack, you see that, right? Tell me you see that." I nodded slowly. "I see it." The ground was smooth, fresh, not like something had crawled away, like it had never happened at all. The only proof left was the smell, thick and sour, burning the back of my throat. Torres turned in a slow circle, rifle raised. "It's back," he muttered. I shook my head. "No, listen." The forest was breathing again. The wind moved through the branches in soft pulses, almost rhythmic, and underneath it, faint but real, came a sound I knew too well. "Help me!" We both froze, same distance, same timing, but this time, it wasn't her. It was me. Torres's head snapped toward me. "Jack, that's you." I swallowed hard. "Keep walking. Don't stop." The voice came again, clearer now, breaking through the static of the night. "Jack, help me." It was identical, same cracks, same breath pattern. Every time I exhaled, the voice exhaled too, 3 seconds late. Torres backed up until his heel hit the truck bumper. "Where's it coming from?" "Everywhere," I said. We jumped in, slammed the doors. The headlights barely cut through the fog as we rolled toward the ranger station. The radio hissed constantly now, like it was inhaling between words. Halfway back, the dashboard lights blinked out. The truck stuttered, coughed twice, then died completely. "Battery's fine," Torres said, panic in his voice. "Then it's not the trucks," I told him. We sat there for a moment, listening. Outside, snow tapped softly against the glass, steady, deliberate. Then the radio lit up on its own, static first, then a voice, low, warped, mine again. "Don't look behind you." Torres reached for the switch. I grabbed his wrist. "Leave it." Through the static, another sound crept in, faint scratching like claws dragging across metal. It came from the roof. We bolted. The snow swallowed our boots instantly, soaking through the seams. The station was still half a mile out. We ran the trail by flashlight, the beam slicing through fog thin as a thread. Every 6 seconds, the radio spat the same plea, "Help me." But now it was my own voice, desperate, terrified, looping like a cry I'd forgotten how to stop making. By the time we saw the tower lights again, my lungs were on fire. Torres burst through the door first, slammed it behind us. Inside, everything looked normal. Desks neat, computers off, logs stacked. Too neat. Torres pressed his ear to the wall. "It's in here," he said. "The sound. It's vibrating through the foundation." I went to the equipment cabinet, flipped the breaker. Power came back instantly. No delay, no hum. Then something clattered inside the cabinet. A small black case fell from the top shelf and cracked open on the floor. Inside, a tape recorder, old cassette-type government issue, labeled in faded marker, 2014, Incident 7. Torres crouched next to it. "You ever seen that before?" "No." I pressed play. The tape whirred, slow and brittle. Then came static, and a voice. "Help me." Exact same tone, exact same inflection. Every 12 seconds, the same loop. Torres's jaw clenched. "It's the same thing." I rewound and listened again. The voice wasn't a woman's. It wasn't mine either. It was everyone's at once, layered, echoing, almost musical. Halfway through, another voice cut in, a ranger identifying himself, breathless. "This is Officer Tom Grant, Shawnee Unit 2. If anyone finds this..." Then silence, a faint thud. The next sound was the creature's mimic, same voice, same man, but wrong, off by half a beat, replaying himself. Torres covered his mouth. "Jack, that's your old partner." I didn't speak. The tape kept running until it hit the end, one last whisper, quiet, almost human. "It's not dead." Then silence. I stared at the recorder. Torres asked, "What does that mean?" "It means it doesn't die," I said quietly. "It remembers." He frowned. "Remembers what?" "Us." I opened the drawer beside the cabinet. Inside were 6 more cassettes, all unlabeled except for dates, each one exactly 10 years apart. 1984, 1994, 2004, 2014, and one more, blank, marked 2024. Torres whispered, "That's this year." "Yeah." Something clicked inside the wall. The station's intercom switched on by itself. Through it, faint static. Then our voices, repeating from 5 minutes ago. "It's not dead." I shut the intercom off, grabbed the fuel can from storage. "Get the flares." Torres blinked. "What?" "We're burning the clearing." We hiked back through the fog, radios off, lamps dimmed. Neither of us spoke. The cold had that heavy taste again, like snow mixed with iron. When we reached the clearing, the ground looked untouched. No tracks, no scorch, no sign of the thing. I poured the fuel in a wide circle and tossed the flare. The fire roared to life, crackling loud against the silence. The heat felt wrong, too sharp, too real, like waking from a dream too fast. Torres backed up, shielding his face. "Will this work?" "I don't know," I said. "But if it records through sound, let's make some noise." The flames leapt high, throwing sparks into the fog. For a moment, I swore I heard voices inside the fire itself, hundreds of them overlapping, calling each other by name. Then, the radio on Torres's belt clicked on by itself. A new voice came through. "Jack, behind you!" I spun around, but there was nothing. Just the trees, just the fire, just snow falling in slow motion. "Liam," I called. No answer. He was gone. The flames crackled louder, burning hot enough to paint the mist orange. The ground where he'd been standing was smooth again. No prints, no rifle, no shadow. The radio lay in the snow at my feet, still on, static. Then my own voice whispered back through it. "Jack, behind you." I looked once, nothing. And for the first time since that night 10 years ago, I realized the echo wasn't a warning. It was a rehearsal, a memory preparing to repeat itself. They said they found me just after sunrise, curled up in the snow, half a mile from the radio tower. My clothes were frozen stiff, my hands raw and bleeding. The rescue team told me I was lucky. Exposure that bad should have killed me hours earlier. They searched the whole forest that morning. No footprints, no camp, no second body. The official report ended with a single line. "Subject located. No evidence of additional personnel." When I woke in the medical tent, everything hurt. They asked what happened, where Torres was, what we'd been doing out there. I tried to answer, but the words came out wrong. Every sentence folded back on itself, like I was repeating an echo I didn't control. One of the medics leaned close, clipboard ready. "What did you hear out there, Mr. Harlow?" I looked past her, to the tree line, to the fog still curling between the pines, and said the only thing my mouth could form. "If you ever hear someone calling your name in the woods, don't answer." That's what they wrote in the file, over and over again. Same sentence, same handwriting, same pressure on every page. They discharged me 3 days later. No psychological follow-up, no further questions. I quit the service before the week was out, signed the paperwork, turned in my badge, packed the few things left in my cabin at Shawnee. The woods were silent that night, unnaturally so, like they were holding their breath. I remember sitting by the window, one last cup of coffee gone cold in my hands. Outside, the tower light blinked through the fog, 12-second intervals, always 12. When I stood to leave, the radio on the shelf clicked on by itself. The same channel we'd used that night, at first just static, then my own voice, flat, distant, repeating in that same whisper, "If you ever hear someone calling your name in the woods, don't answer." It looped once, then again, each playback softer, slower, as if the tape were dissolving. I unplugged the power, the light stayed on, the voice kept playing. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, not howling, not violent, just steady, patient, mimicking the rhythm of breath. And in that rhythm, I swear I heard another voice, faint and familiar, whisper back, "Jack."